Hey everyone, welcome back to the series. This is episode 5, and in this episode, I'm going to be talking about Australia and the experiences that I had while I was there to do pro life activism and some intensely important takeaways with how we react to pro abortion individuals and some lessons that I learned while I was on this trip that I've kept with me ever since. So we're going to go back in time a bit to March of 2019, and I set sail to Sydney, Australia with a group of beautifully wonderful people to advance the pro-life movement there in New South Wales. So this was with Students for Life of America. We were teaming up with Life Choice Australia. Beautiful organization. Love them. Shout out to Rebecca. So the team went over there and we stayed in a host home, and the main focus was going to different universities there in Sydney and the outskirts to bring the pro-life message to university students. And we held some trainings and we did a lot of tabling. Tabling was like the biggest thing that we did. We showed displays and we asked students on campus, when should human rights begin? That was our big question. And we asked people to vote on a time when they think human beings should have human rights. And this was just a great question. It was a great conversation starter because it allowed people to really stop and think through the question of, wait, like, why wouldn't a preborn human being have the same rights that we do, that I do? They're also a human being. And so a lot of fantastic conversations came out of this display and this event. And during this trip, there were a lot of situations that arose that taught me a lot about how to deal with people who are just angry. They're just so filled with anger about this issue, and they are so stuck in the idea that pro-life people are trying to take away women's rights instead of recognizing that what we're really doing is giving women rights. We're showing them that women don't have the right to live from the moment of conception, that preborn baby girls and boys don't have the right to live. And that's the most basic right. If we don't have the right to life, no other rights matter. And so I had one gentleman, that's a nice way of labeling him. He came up to the display and up to me and was very hostile. He had a bike with him and at one point accidentally rolled the bike over my foot. And he was just very aggressive, extremely aggressive. He was bitter, he was angry. I would even go as far as to say foaming at the mouth, possibly. And I was just trying to be calm, and I was trying to express to him that he didn't need to be angry, that we could just have, a nice, polite conversation about this issue. But he wasn't having it. And sometimes you're just going to deal with people in this movement when you're trying to, engage in conversation who are just not open. They're just not open to hearing anything that you have to say. And the bigger event that took place, in addition to this guy with his bike, the bike guy, was this group of feminists, air quotes feminists, because they really were not feminists. They did not believe in the equal rights of all women, preborn included. So I say feminists, very loosely. It was a feminist coalition on the University of Sydney's campus, and we were out there tabling. We had, all of our flyers out, all of our drop cards. We had our big boards that talked about when human rights should begin in field development and all of that. And we were just kind of standing out there in the campus I was holding some flyers to hand out to people to try to engage in conversation. And all of a sudden, all of these women came to protest us, and their idea of a protest was gathering together. There was about, terrible estimation, but probably like 50 people. They all came and gathered around us to take a group photo, like flipping us off, and they were cussing at us and stuff. And my friend Melanie and I just stood there. I just kind of stood there in front of them because we were just going to continue doing what we were planning to do, which was to talk to students, engage with students, and there was no reason for us to move. They didn't ask us politely to move, and so we just stood there. And the tactic that my group, the team of us, chose to go with in response to this group of unruly feminists was to ignore them, because they were so fixated on hating us that there was absolutely no shot that we were going to get anything through with them. So we just ignored them. We acted as though we were completely unbothered by their existence and that they were just not there. And they were pretty mad about that. And so there's a photo of Melanie and I just standing there in front of this group of feminists. Just chilling. We were just chilling and handing out flyers and just standing there smiling, because that's what we were doing before they showed up, and that's what we continued doing after they left. And it was funny because they didn't actually protest us. They didn't actually, engage with us and say, we're the opposing side, we want to talk about this, or we're the opposing side, let me show you why I disagree. No. All they did was they showed up, they tried to take a group photo, unsuccessful because we were standing there, and then their little photo op ended and they gave up. They just left. They didn't do anything. One of them walked by our booth and flipped the table sideways, so all the flyers went everywhere and people started ripping up flyers. Other than that, no, nothing. They didn't do anything productive. And so I wanted to tell this story because I felt like that was a pivotal moment in my activist career and in, the impact that it gave to our team, of just knowing when to engage with someone, knowing when to engage with a pro-abortion person, and knowing when to take a step back and realize I'm not going to reach this person's heart right now. And sometimes the best reaction to this intense hatred that we'll receive on campuses, on the street, in communities, wherever we go as pro-life people, sometimes that anger and that bitterness cannot be shaken and cannot be moved in the moment. But the best thing we can do is to, the old cliche, kill them with kindness, just love on them, love people, regardless of how they treat us. And so that was Australia in a very, very tiny nutshell. It was a fantastic trip. It was a beautiful opportunity to share the pro-life message far and wide. And I met so many inspiring people on that trip. So many activists who are dedicating their lives to abolishing abortion. And, we met a lot of challenges, and there were a lot of ups and downs on the trip. One of the interesting highlights was when we went to the abortion clinics there. They have this thing called an exclusion zone and in New South Wales, and you can't go within a certain amount of distance to an abortion clinic while wearing pro-life merchandise, while saying pro-life things, holding signs, doing literally anything remotely pro-life, and you can be fined and imprisoned. So obviously, as a very diehard American, this didn't sit well with me because I love free speech and I treasure free speech, and so this was difficult to handle. This was difficult to wrap my head around. Like, wow, I can't even protest outside of an abortion clinic here. I can't even say the word pro-life within a certain distance of an abortion clinic. And blew my mind. It was crazy. And yet there were still activists, dedicated, heartfelt activists who were known to continue breaking the law, a law that just doesn't make sense, to go out and hold signs showing what an abortion does, talking to people about abortion, and standing up to not only the injustice of these clinics that are killing human beings every single day, but also standing up to the injustice of not being able to speak out against that, not being able to stand up for the lives that are being taken within those buildings. And so that was truly inspiring, and I wanted to share those stories from my mission trip in Australia, because I think that it can help other people when they're going out and doing missionary work and going out and talking to people, because you never know who you're going to encounter. You never know, the force of evil and the force of anger that you might come across while you're trying to share the truth. Even though it may be difficult, it's part of our duty as activists to face head on those challenges and overcome them with the truth and with love and with compassion and with an ultimate vision that they're not lost souls. They're not hopeless. They're not, lost causes. Every single one of those feminists that were at the University of Sydney that day, who thought that they were ruining our lives by trying to protest and cuss at us and flip us off and all this, they didn't ruin our lives, and they aren't lost causes. And I pray for those individuals every second I can when I think about those individuals, because I know that at some point their minds and hearts may be changed. And if we lose hope for those kind of people that they just everything about them is like, oh, there's no chance their mind will ever be changed. They're just so stuck in their ways. They're so hard-hearted. We have to believe, we have to have hope and faith that one day they will see the truth, they will see the light, and they will share it with someone that they know. So that is Australia. That is my takeaways from that time of my life and that fantastic opportunity. And please do stay tuned for the next episode of this series. And I really appreciate that you have watched this far. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.